Breaking news has completely electrified the football world, and the magnitude of this moment cannot be overstated because the Dallas Cowboys have officially named Ben Johnson as their new head coach, a move that instantly reshapes the identity, direction, and expectations of one of the most iconic franchises in all of sports. And from the second this announcement surfaced, it became clear that this was not just another routine coaching change, but a bold declaration of intent, a signal that the Cowboys are determined to break free from the cycle of unmet expectations, playoff frustrations, and lingering questions that have followed them for years. Because when you think about the Dallas Cowboys, you think about history, legacy, pressure, and an almost unmatched spotlight. And stepping into that environment is not for the faint of heart. Yet Ben Johnson arrives not as a timid figure overwhelmed by the moment, but as a confident, forward-thinking football mind whose rise through the coaching ranks has been driven by innovation, adaptability, and a relentless pursuit of offensive excellence. And that is precisely why this hire has generated such an intense reaction across the league, because Johnson represents a modern approach to football, one that values creativity, flexibility, and intelligence over rigid systems and outdated philosophies. And Cowboys fans who have watched year after year of talented rosters fall short at critical moments are now allowing themselves to believe that this time might truly be different, that this time the man on the sideline might finally be the difference maker, because Johnson's reputation has been built on his ability to maximize talent, to put players in positions where they can succeed, and to constantly evolve his strategies based on what defenses are giving him, rather than stubbornly forcing a scheme that no longer works. And that alone makes this moment feel refreshing, because the Cowboys are no longer choosing comfort or familiarity. They are choosing progress. And as the news spread, reactions poured in from every corner of the football community, with fans expressing excitement, cautious optimism, and in some cases disbelief that the franchise actually pulled the trigger on such a forward-thinking move. Because this is a franchise that has often been criticized for being slow to adapt, slow to change, and too attached to tradition. But with the hiring of Ben Johnson, the message is clear that tradition alone is no longer enough. That winning in today's NFL requires embracing new ideas, new voices, and new ways of thinking. And Johnson embodies that shift perfectly, because he is known not just as a play caller, but as a problem solver, a coach who understands that football games are won through preparation, adjustments, and the ability to stay one step ahead of the opponent. And now he brings that mindset to Dallas, where the expectations are sky high and patience is often limited, yet that pressure may be exactly what fuels him, because great coaches do not shy away from pressure. They embrace it, they feed off it, and they use it to sharpen their edge. And Johnson's journey to this point has prepared him for this moment, for the scrutiny, the headlines, and the constant debate that comes with leading America's team. And as fans look ahead, they can't help but imagine how this new era might unfold. Imagining an offense that feels unpredictable again, that attacks defenses instead of reacting to them, that plays with confidence in critical situations rather than hesitation. Because too often in the past, Cowboys fans have watched games slip away, not because of a lack of talent, but because of conservative decisions, questionable play calling, or an inability to adjust when things stopped working. And this is where Johnson's arrival feels like a turning point, because his philosophy emphasizes adaptability, understanding that no game plan survives unchanged, and that the best teams are those that can pivot on the fly. And beyond the X's and O's, there is also the cultural impact to consider, because a head coach sets the tone for the entire organization, from how practices are run, to how players are held accountable, to how success and failure are handled internally. And Johnson is widely viewed as a coach who demands preparation, who values detail and who fosters an environment where players are encouraged to think, communicate, and take ownership of their roles. And that kind of culture can be transformative, especially for a team that has often been criticized for lacking discipline in the biggest moments. And while no hire guarantees success, the belief that this move could unlock the Cowboys' full potential is what has fans buzzing, because the roster itself is not devoid of talent. It is filled with players capable of making plays, and when paired with a coach who knows how to design schemes around strengths rather than forcing players into rigid roles, the possibilities become exciting. And as the days go by, every comment from Johnson, every staff decision, every hint at schematic changes will be dissected and debated, because Cowboys Nation is starving for signs that this new era will finally deliver on its promise, and the league as a whole will be watching closely. Because when the Cowboys are relevant, competitive, and dangerous, the entire NFL landscape feels it, and opponents know that preparing for Dallas under Ben Johnson will not be a simple task, because his offenses have been known to change tendencies, to disguise intentions, and to attack weaknesses mercilessly, forcing defenses to play honest football rather than sitting comfortably in predictable looks. And that unpredictability alone can swing games. And then there is the psychological impact, because confidence is contagious. And when players believe in their coach, when they trust the game plan and feel empowered to execute without hesitation, the difference shows on the field, in body language, in effort, and in resilience. And that is something Cowboys fans have longed to see consistently, especially in high-stakes games. And while skeptics will rightly point out that head coaching success is never guaranteed, that the transition from coordinator to head coach comes with new challenges, such as managing personalities, handling media pressure, and making tough decisions that go beyond play calling. Those challenges are part of the job, and Johnson's reputation suggests he understands the weight of responsibility that comes with this role, and he is not walking into this blind, because he knows that in Dallas every decision will be magnified, every loss scrutinized, and every mistake replayed endlessly. Yet that reality also creates opportunity, because success in Dallas elevates a coach to another levels entirely, turning wins into legacy-building moments. And as the season approaches, anticipation will continue to grow, because hope has returned in a way that feels different from previous years, less about blind optimism and more about belief in process, belief in preparation, and belief in leadership. And that is why this announcement has resonated so deeply, because it feels like the Cowboys are finally aligning their ambition with their actions, choosing a coach who represents the future rather than the past. And whether this move ultimately results in championships or becomes another lesson in the unpredictable nature of football. One thing is certain: the Dallas Cowboys have once again become the center of the NFL conversation. And Ben Johnson now carries the weight of that attention on his shoulders, stepping into a role that can define his career and potentially reshape the legacy of one of the most famous teams in sports. And as fans count down the days to kickoff, imagining what this new era might bring, one undeniable truth remains: this is not just a coaching change. This is a moment of transformation, a gamble fueled by belief, innovation, and the hope that the next chapter of Cowboys football will finally live up to the promise that has echoed through decades. And for better or worse, the Ben Johnson era in Dallas has begun, and the entire football world will be watching every step of the way.